Midwest.
Welcome back to another episode of Chocolate Conversations Podcast, where we have real conversations that speak directly to you. I'm your host, Keon Taylor, aka Key, alongside my co-host, the inspirational Dr. V, and last but not least, the myth, the legend, Hafiz Stokes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Guys, we got an amazing show for you today, but before we even do that, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this video, share this video, comment. Let's get into this. How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Man, coming off a birthday yesterday,
Happy
man.
belated birthday, bro.
Man.
Sir.
I'm feeling good right now. As a matter of fact, let's take a shot on that real quick.
Let's do it.
Yeah, birthday love, always. Oh, shout out to Patron for putting us on. Man, we got an amazing show today. Colorism. Heavy, but that's so prevalent in the black community. Colorism on all levels, from upbringing, culture, media, music, you name it. We all been impacted on some form of fashion in that.
Yeah.
So then they asked, well, dang, what is colorism? So what I did was I took the liberty of getting a definition of clearly what it is before we even get into this topic. Colorism, prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone, typically amongst people of the same ethnic or racial group. Wow. So we ain't even really talking about racism. We're talking about within the group, colorism.
Yeah.
Man, that's pretty heavy, man.
Yeah.
So according to you guys, man, how would y'all define colorism as far as like your own experiences? Like, how would y'all define them individually? For you, I'm gonna start with Dr. B on this one. You know, when it comes to how would you define it for you?
I would say exactly what you said, and it is definitely, it can be subjective. That's the objective definition, right?
Absolutely.
But it's subjective. It means different things to different people, and it's definitely prevalent. Has been in the black community, especially from slavery. So with my dad being from Montgomery, Alabama, grew up around the corner from Rosa Parks. He taught us, he grew up through the 60s and everything as a kid, and he went to the marches and different things. So he taught us about our history, and that was a part of our history, colorism, and having us understand that even though he was from Montgomery and he raised us in Pittsburgh, you know, growing up north is different from my cousins who grew up in Montgomery, right? Totally different, especially in the 80s and the 90s. But he taught us that definitely colorism was deeply came from slavery. And we know how it came about in slavery with, you know, the masters and sleeping with
Light skin versus the dark skin.
sleeping with the slaves, and then the fair skinned slaves got preferential treatment. They did things in the house or whatever, and the dark skinned slaves were mostly in the fields and everything. And then even just when slavery was abolished in the 50s and the 60s and everything, that's why you saw that a lot of fair-skinned African Americans used to act like they were white to pass, especially if they were they could pass for white because they would get more benefits. And this is all stems from slavery. So I think I was proud that my parents could teach us that early on, so we would understand not to do it, because a lot of people, that's where unconscious biases come in, and I'm sure we're going to get into it. Oh, yeah. But they don't realize that they do it. But I think it's important for us all to also to know where it comes from, and then really think about, okay, we know it comes from slavery. We should think twice. Why are we carrying this out? We're doing what they want us to do.
But then, and to piggyback off of that too, I think sometimes it's been so ingrained in us, we don't even realize we do it. You know,
that's the unconscious biases.
From our self-interest, from our dating and stuff. And we're going to get a little bit more into that. But that's really a good point you made. Even with certain professions in the early 1900s, where with certain teaching jobs or certain jobs, you know, a lighter skinned, fair-skinned woman would get teaching jobs over a darker-skinned woman, because they feel like they're more competent. based on qualifications and stuff. So that's that's very interesting.
Yep.
What about you?
I mean, yeah, of course. Just growing up, I mean, me being a chocolate brother,
Hey,
and me and my brothers. Even growing up as a kid, sometimes you hear like slick jokes growing up as a kid. When you were kind of a darker pigmentation, African booty scratcher from all the different things. And when you hear, and even with women, you see like the light-skinned, prettier girl in the group. Sometimes she would get more attention because there's like this stigma out there that if she's lighter, she's more friendlier than a dark-skinned girl. But I mean, I think a lot of that stuff has kind of transitioned a little bit out, but it's still some of that kind of deeply rooted. Because like you said, going to your unconscious bias and what you just know. And all that kind of stems from, from slavery. The darker skinned slaves were out in the field working, generally because they were raised and branded to be a little bit more tougher, can deal with more pressures. Yeah. And then those who were lighter skinned, mulatto, they were closer to our Anglo-Saxon brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
So they, naturally they would get special treatment over darker skinned African Americans. And I mean, sometimes you kind of see some of that still today. Absolutely. But that's where, like you said, that's where it's deeply rooted. So, yeah.
And I can speak for with me growing up. I remember in school, they used to call me Hershey. And it used to hurt my feelings a little bit until I just kind of got used to it. But in classroom, they used to say, "Oh, you look like Hershey with marshmallow teeth." So they used to be like, "Hey Hershey, hey Hershey," and my mom used to call me her little chocolate bunny. I said, "Mom, don't call me that."
Really?
Oh,
that's cute though.
I ain't like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a brother who he actually was he was a Sigma. At Appalachian State University, and he told me the history, and I know you're a frat. He said in certain organizations, if you wasn't as light as a paper bag, in certain organizations, you couldn't even get on.
Yeah.
You couldn't even be a part of that frat. I'm like, really? But we all black. Those are, and I told my brother, you mean to tell me we're a black fraternity, and they
were still discriminated.
We're dividing each other just based on if I'm not the right skin tone, I can't get in.
Wow.
Yeah, just
I
to
know
piggyback
that.
on that was a test that they did back in the day for a lot of social organizations. That's why I really felt bad for a lot of women. It was this thing called the brown paper bag test.
Yeah.
Where they would compare certain women for initiation into certain social organizations, compare their skin tone to a brown paper bag and their hair, and that would determine how they would get initiated into the social organization. And that's how you saw some other organizations branch off to their own to combat with that. So,
but the brown paper bag test, they got that from overall society because they would do that with men and women for jobs.
Yeah. I know, but it was definitely heavily prevalent.
I didn't know they did that in the fraternity. Oh wow, that's
social
crazy.
Organizations,
And I'm not gonna lie, when I was in college, that kind of turned me off from pleasuring a little bit, just knowing the history of that, and then, but of course, I'm a forward thinker, so I had to kind of move beyond that. But it was just very eye-opening to hear that, especially having a brother that is Greek, and just kind of giving me a little bit of history on that. So let me ask you guys this: so, do you think people are treated differently based on skin tone? Like, do you guys feel like when it comes to a light-skinned person versus a dark-skinned person? I know you're fairly a brown-skinned woman. I know you're a dark-skinned man. Do you feel like there's a difference in treatment, whether it's dating, whether it's in the corporate world? Have you guys saw examples of people being treated differently based on skin tones that you guys know of, as far as your personal experience or in general?
Yeah, I mean, well, one, we know. I'm a researcher because I love school. Okay, cool, so, but just we know in society, one example is dark-skinned women get harsher sentences than light-skinned women in the justice system. And, so it's definitely a fact. So that was eye-opening to me. Like, wow, I couldn't believe that. But yeah, just personally having a lot of friends, growing up north in Pittsburgh in the 80s, it was like everybody loved light-skinned women, men, whatever the case may be. So
I'll be sure.
Even you know how it was. It's in the 80s and in the 90s, right? So I did, the light-skinned friends did get more treatment, better treatment, like you said, from men or whatever the case may be. Then I'm brown-skinned, or my friends who were darker than me and everything like that. And then vice versa with the men as well. People it was I guess we're going to talk about I know we're going to talk about stereotypes and stuff
Right.
like that. But so yeah, I've definitely seen it, and I think it definitely depends on the geography, like where you from or where you grew up and everything like that, and so that plays a part. But yeah,
I think you find a lot of that, especially back in the day, like in the South sometimes, where you still have post civil rights and where people felt that they wanted a more mulatto tone children to have better privileges than they did. So that's a lot of times you see that with mating strategies. So yeah, I would say you would see a lot of that kind of back in the day more in the South versus kind of up north where, a little bit more diversity and freedom, post civil rights.
but I saw it a lot up north. So that's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's everywhere, but it's
definitely in the South. But it was because it's something we did within our own community.
Yeah,
a lot of it because of what society put in our head.
Yeah,
I know.
From generations.
I know for me, coming up, I always favored the light skinned women more, and the reason why I felt good to that because my mother was light skinned. So, and I always reacted to the woman who I got the most attention from in school. So you know that term go where you celebrate it, not tolerate it.
Yeah.
So if the white girl, the Hispanic girl, if the light skinned black girl or the mulatto girl, if she's going to give me the most attention and she's a little bit nicer versus the dark skinned woman who's a little bit mean. And I'm not. And back in the day, I didn't realize. I didn't ask myself, okay, why does she act like that? Or why do we have attitudes? Or why do a person act like this? We just going off of just pure, hey, opposites attract. Hey, okay, she likes me, I like her. Just kind of that yin and the yang type of thing. But it wasn't necessarily that I never thought dark-skinned woman or brown-skinned woman wasn't beautiful. I always thought they were gorgeous. But I kind of went with how I was celebrated. Like, hey, these are the women that show me amount of attention. Or, okay, this woman right here, she's a little bit nicer. This one right here they got the attitude. You know what I mean?
You know what, Keon?
It's kind of like Martin. It's kind of like Martin and Gina. Pam. It's the difference between Pam and Gina. It's different,
right?
And I'm not saying Pam wasn't amazing. She wasn't beautiful, but every guy growing up wanted Gina. Dang, man, I like Gina. She seems like more wifey type. You know what I mean?
It goes back to a little bit of your unconscious bias.
Absolutely.
How there's this stigma like that light-skinned, fair-skinned women are a little bit more friendlier than dark-skinned women that come off maybe a little bit more liberal, rebellious, closer to our Anglo-Saxon brothers and sisters who may come from a little bit more structured dynamic.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes that's indoctrinated in your mindset. Comes off in your unconscious bias, thinking, oh, okay, that seems more warmer and friendlier, so.
And it's funny because a lot of women I know that are maybe darker than me, they always liked it. They were attracted to lighter men. Right. So that might have been an issue too, because if you're the same complexion, they were naturally attracted to people lighter than them, especially growing up, because of their preference or their unconscious bias of what you were saying about thinking of mating.
Strategy.
And I'm glad you brought that up, V, because Is it okay to have a preference? Because at the end of the day, I can't get mad at a dark skinned woman. She say, "Hey, I just like a light skinned guy," or a dark skinned man say, "You know what? My preference is I'm just attracted to a light skinned girl." But I'm not saying that the chocolate woman ain't sexy. You're not beautiful. I don't value you. But damn. Am I allowed to just say, hey, I like what I like? How do we bridge the gap with that? Because a lot of people say, hey, if a man have a preference, and I'm just, literally speaking, if a man has a preference, oh, how dare he? Oh, if he say, I want a curvy red bone, a chick, a red light-skinned chick, and that's just what he likes, but it's no disrespect to the dark-skinned woman. Why does he get shunned on versus a woman saying, hey, I want a man tall, dark, and handsome. And as men, she likes what she likes. She has a right to like what she likes. But why is that an issue, and how do we bridge the gap on both of those?
It goes back to insecurities, man. It's one of those weird double standards, like I told you before, that affect men and women differently. Yeah. When it comes to, and I even seen like single shows where women describe their ideal man, like you said, the tall, dark, and handsome. Right. And if a brother display his preferences,
how dare he?
Yeah, and if it was kind of race preference, then it's sensitive. We try to tread that sensitive line because we know, of course, when it comes to women and their beauty and their skin tone, it is very, very sensitive. So as men, we we have to just kind of tread that line a little bit.
So you're saying even though it should be balanced,
It should be
equal,
balanced, yeah,
But considering that women are emotional,
Yes,
and when it comes to colorism, they're probably affected by it more.
Yeah.
As men, we kind of have to tread a little bit lightly with that, just because
Yeah.
of that. Even though it
According
should be
to
equal all the way
society,
around. Because I'm looking
Yeah.
at it from my logical view. I'm looking at it like, okay, if most of them have a preference, hey, I want to talk dark and handsome, cool, no problem. But if I have a preference over here, why take offense to that? I'm not saying you're not beautiful. I'm not saying I wouldn't give a woman outside of my preference the time of day. I'm just saying, hey, that's just a preference. It's almost like a job. It's almost like a job application. Preferably, but then when you apply, hey, anybody can get it.
But most women, we don't care because we have preferences. Like it's okay to have preference, but it's about the delivery. You can have a preference, but don't downplay or talk negative about the opposite. You know what I mean? So, i.e., you can say your preference is tall. I want somebody tall. But don't shit on short people. Don't. So that's the thing. It's like if your preference is light-skinned women, don't downplay black-skinned women or say they're not as beautiful. So it's about the delivery. If anybody can have a preference, that's okay. We all have different preferences.
I agree with you a little bit, but I think still it just depends on who says it sometimes. If it's like a desired man, like I say, i.e. a celebrity or someone that just act, because there have been celebrities that come out and say their preference. And they have tarnished their brand and stuff. So that's why a lot of them kind of keep that enclosed. So I think it's just different layers.
But how did they say it though? Again, because some of them, it's about the delivery. You don't have to bash another.
Yeah, I'm with you on the bashing.
Yeah, because some people do that.
Yeah, I'm with you on the bashing.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to degrade any other race, anything or color.
Yeah.
But just simply stating like, yeah, I prefer this certain type of women, and if it alienates a majority group of race of women or men, then sometimes it can come with some backlash.
And here's the thing, guys. And sometimes like you said, it's unfortunate that a lot of us are still in that place, like you said, impacted by those culturally biased things. But at the end of the day, it's the person. I guess for me, I'm looking at it like, man, whether you light skin or dark skin, who are you dealing with? Personality, state of mind. That's what I'm looking more so. But unfortunately, that's not the where we're living at. So let me ask you guys this. So when it comes to men, I'm gonna ask this question to you, Hafiz, because there's a stigma going on. Light-skinned men are considered more feminine. Dark-skinned men are considered more masculine.
Yeah.
Do you see any truth or false in that as far as your everyday life, whether it's music? Because let's keep, and I'm gonna give my take after you finish, because I hear a lot of that. Oh, light-skinned guys are more feminine, dark-skinned guys are more masculine. Elaborate on that a little bit more for us out there.
Yeah, there's some little play on terms talking about you acting real light skinned. Right? You acting real light skinned. Right?
Yeah, people say that.
People say
that.
Drake is soft. He making these soft
emotional.
songs.
Yeah, you're real emotional.
Yeah.
Emotional.
I mean, that goes like you said. That's deeply rooted back into our ancestry. Darker skinned African Americans generally did more of their hard labor. They had a tougher exterior, which the men wore masks. And sometimes that masculine energy sometimes transits, sadly, onto our women, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's those reasons why. And where we had more of a struggle. We had more of a struggle going through slavery. Like we were out in the fields while the mulatto races, men and women, had more easier work to do. They were in the house. They went out to the field. So it seems that transition, like you said, the unconscious bias, that we're more built for tougher times, masculinity, strength, and all. So, yeah.
And not even to say that light-skinned men are not masculine.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Plenty of light-skinned men, dark-skinned men that are masculine or what have you. So it's no disrespect to the opposite. But what is your take on that, Dr. V?
Are you asking me if it's accurate or do I think
Yeah. I mean, because obviously you're dating. I'm sure you had your share of the dark skinned, light skinned man. Do you feel a difference between dating the light skinned man versus the dark skinned man when it comes to masculinity, femininity?
Yeah, I never equated it with how their tone of their skin. It was always for me their emotional intelligence. So the maturity.
Okay, you were relevant because
Yeah.
cause
I'm big on emotional intelligence.
Right. And the reason why I'm related to skin color because it's hard not to see what you see.
Yeah.
That's why imagery is so powerful.
Yeah.
What you see, what your eyes see, films, images.
Yeah.
Whether you're accurate or not, we feel how we feel.
Yeah, and no, but I'm kind of aligned with you. It doesn't really matter the tone. Now I know, when I brought up unconscious biases, I didn't, growing up, I grew up in the suburbs. It was mixed or whatever, so it was like very diverse and everything. And so you did okay, you like light skinned people, or that was the thing or whatever. But the best thing ever was when I went to HBCU and I saw a rainbow of different shades. All different shades.
Yeah,
I was like, and I ain't never went back since. So.
And I'm glad you brought that up. HBCUs. Now I didn't have the HBCU experience, guys. So what were your experiences with colorism? Because I'm sure you guys saw the Spike Lee movie. What's the name of that Spike Lee movie? When he had the different
not do the right thing.
She got a. That's not.
No,
she's
it's
not,
do the right thing.
No, college days.
Yeah, school days.
School days.
Yeah, and that dealt with a lot of colorism.
There was some colorism in that.
Yeah, of course.
With the sororities and organizations.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you guys brought up HBCUs. What was your experiences? Would you say that going to an HBCU, was that did you see a lot of colorism within that at an HBCU? And if so, to what capacity? To what degree, if there was any? Even though we all black, let's keep it real. If you're at HBCU, I'm sure you're still going to see the ups and downs as far as conflict, non-conflict, togetherness, in that environment.
I mean, there might have been a little bit, but of course we're living in more modern times where it's not as deeply rooted or what we see back in maybe like our parents or our grandparents' times. But I wouldn't doubt that there might have been some in some small infrastructures, organizations and social clubs where people lean more a certain way versus on someone's pigmentation. So I mean, I would say not as prevalent like that, but yeah.
But did you experience it when you was at your HBCU? Because that still was a while ago.
Yeah, it was. No.
You didn't experience it? Okay.
Not too. No.
All right. I noticed it. You bring, it's like, it's an HBCU, so you got African Americans from everywhere, and there were different other people from different cultures and races that went there, and actually they got a lot of attention because they were different, right? So like the white kids, boys that were on the basketball team or the football team, or so they got a lot of attention because they were different. But you did see it because, it's been ingrained in our culture. So you put young kids from all over across the world in one organization, you're going to see it, right? For me, what I personally experienced was because I was from Pittsburgh and I came down to Charlotte, and how I spoke, a lot of people would say, "You sound white. You talk white." And I'm like, "What does that mean? What does sound white, talk white mean?" And they'd be like, "You just sound too proper." And I'm like,
that offends me. I hate when people say, "Oh, just because a black person talks proper, you talk white." What is talking white, and what the hell does that mean?
I was like,
we're not supposed to sound intelligent. We're not supposed to be articulate in our speech. We're not supposed to use. Big words. It just offends me a little bit.
Using cultural words. That's why cultural phrases.
I mean, but it was because it was my accent too. But it wasn't even about the culture words, because I was cool, but it was just my accent because I wasn't from the South. I didn't have a Southern drawl. I was like back then. I was very, my speech was very different. But to your point, I would challenge people. I would like, well, what does that mean? Oh, you sound like, and so the examples was, oh, you sound like the people do on TV. And I'm like, that's where I'm from. I mean, I don't know. This is how, so I personally dealt with that. I didn't deal with the tones or anything like that, my skin or whatever, but I dealt with things of that nature. So.
That's a good one. That's a good point. Good point, V. I got a question for you, Dr. V. Colorism. Do you feel like it affects women more than men? And I'm asking this for a reason, because, a lot of women wear makeup. You got skin bleaching. That's a thing now. You know, women are bleaching their skin. I hear a lot of black women complaining about, man, in music videos, when you look at hip hop culture, music culture, man, it's flooded with light skinned women or fair skinned women in the music videos. Oh, she hot. I want a fine yellow red bone, whatever it is you hear rappers saying it all the time. Do you feel like it affects women more? And if so, why would you say it affects women more than men when it comes to how women are portrayed in media? Because I hear some women also say, hey, I don't think dark skinned women are portrayed or celebrated enough on those platforms.
Yeah, that's a no. Thank you. That's a actually dope ass question. Yeah, it definitely affects women more because when we're looked at as far as beauty, right? And we're looked at differently than men. And when you mentioned the music videos, so I don't know if y'all remember when Straight Outta Compton was filming, there was a lot of controversy that came out, but for their casting call. I don't know if y'all remember that, but they was like they had 4 different categories of the casting call for women they were looking for. And type A was considered light skin, long hair, real hair, things of that. They was just describing a feature. And then they went on, and when you got to type C and D, it was like brown skin, dark skin women, weave, and this, and it got a lot of controversy. And so that was just in Straight Outta Compton, which came out, 6-7 years ago, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it's when, you know, you brought a good example from back in the 80s and the 90s, the popular shows, you did see the leading roles were light-skinned women in those roles. And you've heard different actors and actresses talk about that. As far as in corporate, it definitely affects when it comes to equal pay, but I believe it's on the same scale with black men and women as far as the pay system, because we're compared to our counterparts. But it did say about the dark-skinned men and women not maybe getting their equal much as pay as maybe a fair-skinned woman, or just even with the interview process of things of that nature. And then let's talk about the hair. That's a whole different topic about people wanting to wear their hair natural, or, you know, wanting to have extensions and weave and everything like that. So yeah, I feel like it definitely affects us more with society. And that's why a lot of women do feel pressure to maybe bleach their skin. You know, that was a big thing that they were doing in Africa. They do that a lot in Africa, where they bleach their skin. When I first
heard that women were bleaching their skin, I thought it was crazy. Yeah. I thought it was disrespectful to God. I said, man, he created you beautiful. Why would you want to bleach the skin? But then when you look at, like you said, you look at some of them probably been bullied. Some of them probably been, oh, you ugly, you this and that. You know what I mean? So I can kind of understand, even though I still think it's crazy, but it makes a lot of sense the way you.
They haven't healed from their trauma, because a lot of people, dark-skinned men and women I know, depending when they grew up. But if you grew up, like some people who grew up in the 80s and 90s in New York, and you're around a lot of Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and everything is very cultured, dark-skinned women did have a rough time growing up. Were called names, were antagonized, weren't chosen.
Somebody like me would come along like, man, why this dark-skinned woman? Why she got an attitude? Or why every time I try to talk to her, it's like, well, you know, smacking the teeth, you know, classic, you know, just how I grew up. Girl, you ain't, you know, why she acting like that? But then this light-skinned chick or this fair-skinned chick over here, hey, how are you? And in my mind, I'm thinking subconsciously, man, I'm going to gravitate towards the chick over here because they're nicer. They treat me better. I get a little bit more, it's more of a welcoming vibe. You know, have you experienced that, Hafiz?
Yeah, it goes back to, just like you said, how dark-skinned men are viewed as more masculine or more rougher, tougher exterior. Just like I said, sometimes that essence transition to some of our women, unfortunately. So yeah.
I like that. And then, and it's funny you mentioned the TV shows. Like I can name a few. You remember like Living Single, Girlfriends, where you had Joan. You know, you had Joan was the lead. You had Tony. Always got something going on. You had the what's the other chick?
Tracy Ellis Ross.
That's Joan.
That's I said it right.
And then Persia White was the light skinned one. Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned skin bleaching, but then on the opposite corner, I had a homegirl that I went to college with. I'm not going to mention her name, but she's a light skinned woman, and she said with her being a biracial or light skinned woman, she said that she used to get bullied a lot, and sometimes we don't talk about too. You know, there's another side to it too, where people are being bullied. You know, she said a lot of black women would try to clown her or try to fight her because she was light skinned, and I thought it was ridiculous. Like, what you mean by that. But yeah, you think you better than me. You think just because you got good hair. I'm like, yo, where's all this coming from?
From society. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And some people did carry themselves like that because if that's how you got to think, just like how you mentioned how your family made comments. If they were light skinned and their family treated them, you're this and this and that, they subconsciously when they got in adult life, they can't help but act like that. It doesn't mean it's right, but if they were acting like that and have a certain air about them, the brown skin or dark skin women we're gonna go off your energy and feed that and be like, oh no, you're not better, So that I can see that happening. That probably happened a lot.
Yeah, I got you. That's what's up. So let's transition into dating when it comes to colorism, because that's a big thing. I hear a lot of, and I'll be honest with me being a chocolate brother, I'm sure Hafiz can attest to this. I don't have no issues in the dating world. I really don't, because like the tall, dark, the chocolate,
the tall, dark,
the
and
Nestle
handsome
brother.
is
but in the 80s and 90s, let's keep it in the 80s and 90s. They wanted the light skinned dudes, but then now
that's all they wanted.
I like that people are appreciating the chocolate brother more now. Do you guys feel like when it comes to dating, and maybe you guys can help me answer this, a dark skinned woman's dating experience and a chocolate brother's dating experience is very different?
You said a dark-skinned woman and a
dark-skinned man.
Dark-skinned man.
Would you say their dating experiences are different?
Then what?
In general, if you had to compare the two, as far as if you put a dark-skinned woman and a dark-skinned man next to each other, and they giving their dating experience, would you say when it concerning colorism, would you say their experiences are going to be completely different, or would you say they're going to have the same experiences? Because a lot of women like chocolate men.
Right. Let's say equal in attraction at least.
Okay.
Let's
okay.
keep it balanced. Maybe, yeah. Because
come up to the mic.
Yeah, maybe because the dark-skinned guy, he's probably desired by, if he's attractive enough, he's desired by, all tones. So it might be a slight advantage in the dating scene for him. Yeah.
So what about you, Dr. B? What's been your experience with just dating? You being a brown-skinned woman, and when we talk about a brown-skinned woman and a dark-skinned woman, are they sort of in the same category? Because I think sometimes with us black people, they put us in different skin tones and different groups. Is there a difference between the brown-skinned woman and the dark-skinned woman? Is there a difference?
Well, I would say understanding my friends who are darker than me, how they grew up, I experienced our experiences were different.
Okay.
But I don't know if you guys notice this, but the older we get, the lighter we get. Like I was darker when I was younger. I don't know if it was because we were in the sun more or something.
It ain't changed for me.
No, seriously, because if you look back at back at the pictures and stuff, like, well, I was always an athlete, so I was always in sports and everything, but I was darker than I am now. Like I get really lighter in the winter, and I'm like, wait a minute, because then I got to change up my hair color and stuff. So I'm just like, but yeah, I would say the experiences have been different, just from because this is always kind of difficult and uncomfortable to talk about, but I love that I have always had like dope people in my life. Shout out to all my beautiful friends. And we always create safe spaces for each other where we can open up and talk about this honest shit that before we decided to take the road on therapy, right? To go to therapy, it's like we would talk about these things and we would share. So that's why I'm able to speak from on some of their behalves. Like I know our experiences have been different. And again, it depends from where you from. Like my girls from the West Coast, they have different experiences, right? Versus the women friends in the South versus us up north. And my experience in Pittsburgh is different than my friends from Pittsburgh. My friends from New York, because again, there was a lot of Dominicans and Puerto Ricans up there. So a lot of the men wanted those type in light skin, and they would shun the dark skinned women. And that's why I say it's okay to have preferences as long as you're not bashing and degrading the somebody that you don't want. Like when somebody says they want somebody, tall, or they want somebody thin, but they're bashing big people, or they're heavier set people, or they're bashing short people, or whatever the case may be. That's where it's not cool, because we're all, like you said, God made us all different. And
beauty is in the eyes of the beholder too. Beauty is what you think beauty is. I can't, if this man over here likes a likes a BBW type of woman or he likes a dark skinned woman, that's his preference.
Yep.
And like I told you guys, me growing up, some of my family members would be like, hey, don't bring no women home darker than you. You know what I mean? Bring you home a fair skinned woman. And at that time, so of course as a kid, I'm like, okay. That kind of fueled it even more. You
didn't know.
And you have people out there. You have people out there whose own family members. Family members. Advise them. Their own mother or their own father say, "Hey, make sure you bring home this type of person."
Yeah.
So now, and that puts even more added pressure on them. Have you guys experienced that as far as family, getting into more personal relationships?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, it's probably more open now, but I'm sure a lot of African American families like, don't you bring home no.
If she can't use your comb,
Exactly,
don't bring her home.
she can't
Did you experience that?
I mean, there were conversations like that.
Oh,
in my
okay,
family.
okay.
Yeah. But now they understand. Like, if she cares about you,
Mm-hmm.
if y'all ideals and things align, then her color or pigmentation, anything doesn't matter.
I went to going to a predominantly white school. I went to Appalachian State. Shout out for all the App State alumni. It was 95% white, 2% black, and the rest of them were like Hispanic or something like that. So we barely had black people on there, and the black people that were there, that we were athletes. That's pretty much it. And I've dated outside of my race a little bit. I tried the vanilla. I dipped into vanilla a little bit. But my mom said something very interesting to me. She said, "Now, why would you date outside your race?" I said, "What you mean, Mom?" She said, "Why would you date outside your race when we're the only group of people that have every color of the spectrum? Dark chocolate, mint chocolate chip, light brown, dark brown, blue black, high yellow, different skin tones, different eye color, different personality. We have every color of the spectrum within black culture or within the black race. Why would you even consider dating outside of your race? If you want a black woman with a sedity, you want a classy, we have everything. Why would you want to date outside your race?" But then it goes back to what you said. It depends on the location you at. But it just really was an interesting perspective to me because I was the kind of person, go where you celebrate, go where you love that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But my mom used to always say, "Man, we have everything here. You should never consider dating outside your race." Have you guys ever considered dating outside of your race?
I mean, not so much, but I mean, I'm open, just like if all, I mean, you can't help with who you love and who you, if y'all ideals and everything align. So, and that's kind of where I'm at. And that's what my parents have just instilled in me and my brothers. I mean, of course, preferably they would like for me to bring home a woman of African descent. That would probably be my number one preference, but you want, like you said, you want to go where you're celebrated. So
I like that.
Yeah, so growing up, I dated outside of my race and everything, because that's what I was exposed to. But my preference that whole HBCU experience is life changing, especially at a young age. So it was just amazing, and it really opened up my eyes to kind of something what your mom was saying, and so my preference is to date within my race, but I've always been open because it is about the person and quality, different characteristics and everything. Hell, when I was in Dubai in October for 2 weeks, I was like looking like, cause I love beards. So I was looking at the men like, oh my gosh, they have amazing beards and they have they're all, the turban on and everything. And it was just like, wow. So I'm definitely open. Yeah.
I like that. Let me ask you guys this question. Is there a such thing, and just give it to me straight, is there a such thing as light skin privilege, dark skin privilege? Is that even a thing? And if so, what the hell does that mean? And maybe they can tie into pretty privilege, I don't know, but is there a such thing as, hey, dark skin privilege, oh, he chocolate, he handsome, so he can do that, or she light skin, she can do that. Is there a such thing as light skin privilege or dark skin privilege?
I'll let y'all go first because I hear it mostly among men.
I'm gonna say
for women. Y'all say that
for me, but this is just my personal opinion. I'm gonna say yes to an extent because I do feel like the more attractive a person is to you, if you fit their type or their mold. If a woman just love chocolate brothers, I think there's certain things that he can probably get away with or get by with that a guy that's outside of that attraction probably couldn't. Now, is it right or wrong? It's not right or wrong. I'm just saying. I think to some degree it is.
Yeah, I think so too. I just kind of piggyback off what you were saying. Yeah, I've seen just visuals and clips where guys will rank a group of women and a pretty light-skinned girl. They would sometimes rank her prettier over some of the other women. It's unfortunate sometimes. I think it's like I said, it just comes off as like a warmer essence sometimes. Like I was telling you earlier, how us as darker skinned African Americans, we've come from a little bit more rougher, tougher backgrounds, more humble beginnings, rougher exterior. Like I said, sometimes some of that essence transition to our women, and it's unfortunate sometimes. So yeah. So there is maybe some special privilege that some of our light-skinned women may get.
Let me ask y'all this. Do you feel like when it comes to colorism, it's 2024 right now, 2024, and we still having the same conversation on colorism? It's still a big thing today. Do you feel like that's something we'll eventually evolve from, or do you think it's just been so ingrained in our culture, our history? It's been so ingrained in every aspect, from family to upbringing, mental health, discrimination, political, everything. Do you feel like that's something that we'll eventually grow out of, and we just look at a person for the person? Hey, I like her because I'm attracted to her. She has a good mind. She has a good family background. We really enjoy being together. We have great conversations. That's why I'm with this woman, minus the pigmentation. Who gives a shit? Who cares? Do you think we'll ever evolve from there, or do you feel like society won't allow us to do that unless we conform to society? Do you feel like we'll break from that eventually?
Nah, it's just we got too much history. We have too much bad history with civil rights and Jim Crow and all of that. We're evolved. We've showcased more essence of our pigmentation on major platforms and stuff. So I think more of our races and tones are being highlighted, but it's just too much bad history for it to completely just go away and evolve. But for us to continue having these conversations, to highlight and to educate some of our background history, especially to a lot of our generations that come after us, then I think we'll surpass.
What about you, Vic?
Yeah, I think we'll continue to evolve away from it because, studies say that you're right. It does. We have a lot of history with it, but that's also with the older generation. So the younger generation and everything, they are so diverse, right? They're so accepting to, like, a lot of them hate racism. You know what I mean? And so they're getting more and more away from our history, whether they might not know it or they weren't raised that way, if they have younger parents or whatever the case may be. Or even with society, they're so free. They're like, oh, we don't care what society thinks. We're going to do what we want to do. You know what I mean? A lot more of African American, especially in particular Black women, have they're entrepreneurs now. They have their own businesses. So with the masses of that happen, a lot of us you don't have to be in corporate to deal with some of those things. You can create your own environments. That's why they say, don't wait for a seat at the table, build your table, right? And so a lot of us in our communities are doing that. And we do have to have these uncomfortable conversations. We have to educate people, and because a lot of it is unconscious, and some people just don't realize they do it.
Yep.
And that's in all races, because colorism is within every, it's very prevalent in the Black community, but it also happens in other communities. So
I just want us to just kind of move past it, because one thing about us as Black people, we have strong features, and whether you're high yellow, dark skin, whatever it is, at the end of the day, you see it. That's how strong and how powerful we are. You see our features, you see our full lips, you see the TV, you see our eyes, and it's just so
okay.
big.
So you brought up something that's perfect. Full lips. So growing up, I've always had full lips. That wasn't a cool thing growing up.
Why not? It was great from where I came from.
No,
we like the lips, but I get it though.
But that wasn't a cool thing. People, like, I didn't really get teased or whatever, but just you would hear conversations, or again with the images we saw on TV and different platforms, it just wasn't it wasn't embraced. But and then it now we have people from other races, they get injections, they're trying to look like us or whatever. Right. And so it definitely has evolved, but I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one thing. Growing up, I was self-conscious. I was self-conscious about that because of society. But, it took me to be, what you said, very secure, and I don't care what nobody thinks. This is how God made me. I love my lips. So that's why I just love wearing lipstick and everything like that.
It's funny you mentioned that, because it seems like in our culture, we do everything we can to change our genetics and change our makeup. But then you look at people outside of our culture and outside of race, they trying to look like us. So why are we doing the opposite instead of just taking that pride in our culture, our skin tone, taking pride in our features? Because when you look at the black man, we are the most imitated people on the face of this earth. From our culture, how we sing, to how we move, everything.
What we wear, how we dress.
Our culture is it's like not politically correct, if you know what I mean. That's why, like, when you think about hip hop, it's like revolutionary. It speaks a message, especially to the youth, and it goes against what's societal norms. So all the black culture, that's what it is. It speaks against society norms. That's why everybody tries to emulate it. That's why people can sell it. And like you mentioned, us trying to reverse it back and forth. You even got BBLs, which in one case that was like, in essence, black women have beautiful shapes and they're very curvaceous. Now you're seeing other races kind of emulating that image.
So it's almost like, but we set the culture. Yeah. That's the thing I understand. I'm gonna tell you guys another thing that used to really bother me growing up with this colorism thing. That's something that my fellow black men and women do a lot, and this really pisses me off. And I want to hear y'all perspectives on this. Oh, I got a little Indian in my blood. I got a little white in my blood. I'm black and such and such. Oh, my great granddaddy, he was white. Like we say that with a sense of pride. Like, oh, instead of just really taking pride in your beautiful black skin. Like, I don't care about that. What about taking pride in? Okay, this is what I am. It's almost like we try to do it every day we can to try to mix in our complexion just to make us appear more exotic than what we are, when really we're beautiful within our own right. But why do we do that?
You just mentioned exotic. Like, it's the essence of trying to be different, exotic. If you got a little bit of Cherokee or something,
But we black, we are exotic.
For me, it's so funny because on my dad's side, we say that because I think my great grandfather, Cherokee, black, definitely. But you could but we would say that about the features. A lot of, on my dad's side, the male features were the high cheekbones, thin hair, Indian hair and stuff like that. And I get my cheekbones from my dad, so we would say it as not as trying to be exotic, but we were just talking about the features of the males in our family because of we wasn't so far removed from Indians and everything like that. But it was more, again, it was just, I guess it just depends how people were raised. See, we were raised to really celebrate our culture and heritage, be proud. My dad, that's why I was a reader. He had us reading those brown encyclopedias when we were 3 or 4 years old, learning about our history. Again, because how he grew up. Everybody can't say they was raised around the corner from Rosa Parks. That's a big flex. So he made sure I'm gonna instill this in my kids. And you know what? He taught us love everybody instead of hating, because he was up close seeing what Martin Luther King Jr. and everybody during the 60s and 70s went through. And my grandma, she passed away when she was in her 90s. And it was such a beautiful thing for her to be alive to see the first Black president in office, because I'm not talking about politics, but I'm just saying, I'm just talking about the history, and because she was born in 1920, and she experienced a lot. She's definitely seen a lot. And so for my family, so for my family, we was the family they really celebrated our roots coming from Montgomery. It just really, and we were just always so proud. So that's why I ride for us. I'm so like, I don't like the crab in the barrel mentality. A lot of these things that came from slavery, because that's not how I was raised. You know what I mean? But we're all raised differently.
Always differently. I remember my dad, before you pick it up, I remember my dad when he was living. I never seen a man with so much pride in us. He said, man, black is the thing to be. Have you seen Marvin Gaye? Have you seen Muhammad Ali? Have you seen Spike Lee? Have you seen Jim Brown carry that football? Have you seen Michael Max? Have you seen our Smiles? Have you seen the first time Aretha Franklin sung on a mic? Have you heard that? Wow. Black is the thing to be. Y'all missing out. Wow.
I love it.
But he had so much pride. Said, man, have you seen something? I've never seen a man with so much pride. They give you that confidence. Man, we're beautiful. Man, wow.
And we've gotten away from that.
Right. And how do we, you know what? And it's funny you mentioned that. How do we get that back?
I don't know,
How do we get that pride back? Is there an answer for that? Like on some real shit, is there an answer? How do we get that back? How do we carry that and then instill it into our children and our family and our friends and our peers to where we know, man, you see what we doing?
And you would get excited when your dad would say that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
You're like, Marvin Gaye,
Oh, you see LeBron, how he drops the ball in the bucket?
Yeah.
You see how Feast when he wear the shirt, the green shirt with the stripes on it? Man, wow.
When Michael Jackson did the moonwalk.
I mean, I feel like as a black culture, we have so much to celebrate. We have so much to smile about. We have so much to be proud of. But I feel like sometimes we try to go against what we've built over the years. But that's why I was asking, how do we get that back? Is there a way to even get it back? Or is it one of those things individually you just have to just carry that pride and hopefully it resonate with someone else?
Yeah, I think it's an individual thing at this point.
Like what we're doing right now, having these chocolate conversations about topics like this, because there are not a lot of outlets where people can get information or see beautiful black people like us having these conversations. A lot of this is not on mainstream media, so you have to find different outlets to educate yourself, empower yourself. So yeah, what we're doing right now.
And I do want to see us just continue to build, man. It doesn't matter if you're light skinned, dark skinned. I don't care what you are. At the end of the day, you're still my brother. You're still my sister. I love you. Don't ever think just because you're a certain skin tone, you're not beautiful. You are beautiful. You're more than your complexion. It's deeper than that. It's the person. You know, as long as your character and everything's right, and you're a good, solid person. Hey, sky's the limit, baby. You know, because I believe in us that much. I really do. You know what I mean? Now, let me ask you guys another thing. You know, what do you guys want to see differently when it comes to colorism? Like just going forward individually, what do you guys want to see differently in the world that you're not seeing a lot of today concerning colorism? Like, what do you want to see differently?
I'll let you start. I've been talking.
I mean, I guess I just want just to, like you to kind of piggyback what you were saying, just us continue to be empowered, continue to celebrate, because our black culture is powerful. Black culture is powerful. I mean, we're one of the most emulated cultures ever. So just the positive side of it. I think a lot of cases, the negative side of our culture is being highlighted versus the positive, which can kind of have a negative impact on our community and how people view us. So that's why us continue having these conversations, have platforms like this where we can have conversations and continue to highlight the positive of our culture. So that's what I would like to continue to see.
Good stuff, brother. Good stuff. What about you, doctor?
The more we continue to break down those not preferences, but those unconscious biases, those barriers that we have for each other, the more society will notice and they will do the same. So I want us as a community to really do our research, do our education, understand, and when we are in positions of power, don't make decisions based off of colorism or not giving people a fair chance, because it happens all the time. And we are in position sometime and we contribute to it. And then the people in society be like, oh, okay, yeah,
And it's
yeah,
funny
yeah.
you
'cause
mention that, and if we are in positions of power, represent us well.
right.
Because sometimes you take
Yeah.
some black people in positions of power and they abuse it. Maybe they
Yeah.
got caught up with a scandal or something like that.
Yeah.
But then you're making it hard for the next brother or the next sister coming
Yeah.
out. Represent us well. I don't care if it's something as small as a position in the church. I don't care if it's giving back. I don't care if it's a sports team.
Yeah.
Be a good. That's why one thing I always admire Jordan. He always represented us well with a sense of class.
Who?
Michael Jordan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He always just represented us with a sense of class and flair. You never really heard a lot of controversy on Michael Jordan or even LeBron James. Even though I'm not a LeBron fan like that basketball wise, I'm a Kobe guy. Kobe, my boy. I'm gonna keep it real.
Yeah.
But represent us well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely correct on that. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So you already know. So one word to sum up today's topic. What would it be? I'm gonna go around the circle. I gotta say what I want to see differently. What I want to see differently, I want to see us celebrate each other more. You know what I mean? If I see a rap video, include every skin tone, black. Let's treat each other better. Let's trust each other more. Let's do business more. Let's love each other. Let's get married at higher rates. I want to see the dark-skinned woman, the light-skinned woman. Let's marry each other at higher rates. Let's have more two-parent homes. Let's really love each other. Let's not say, oh, light-skinned or dark-skinned girls are better. Hey, if she's a good woman and you love her, hey, roll with it. But I just want to see us really just celebrating each other more. I don't give a damn what your complexion is. Treat me right. Do me right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's just keep it at that. You know what I mean? So
I love that.
one word to sum up today's topic in your own way. It can be something personal, whatever it is. I'm gonna start with you, Dr. V, and then we're gonna trickle around back to myself. How would you sum it up for you?
Just to what I was just saying, like just educate yourself to know what about our history and to know what the impacts are when you make certain decisions or you move certain ways. Be conscious, break down those barriers, and that when you're in a position of power, empower others to be great.
Beautiful.
No matter what they look like.
Beautiful.
And it should be, if I win, we all win.
Beautiful.
Thank you, bro.
All right, let's go to the myth and legend. Mr.
I would say
Hot
just
himself.
embrace you, embrace how you were born, and just continue to empower others with positive energy. Like I said, and just embrace everything about you, and continue to empower others in a positive way. So.
Okay. I'm gonna leave it on this note from me. To love you as a black man or a black woman is to love your race and to be proud and to love your family and to love everyone in it, even your lineage. To love yourself, you loving yourself and doing things to love yourself and embrace yourself, not changing anything, loving you. That's paying homage to your ancestors, your parents, your aunties, your uncles, the future going forward. Because I said, man, I don't know what it is this man or this woman have on them, but the way they love each other and the way they embrace themselves, man, that resonates with me. Because all you have to do is lay one brick at a time. And if you see a black man and a black woman out there that's lost or they caught up in culture and all this other stuff and trying to change, just pray for their brother and sister, because sometimes we all still trying to figure it out, but in different ways. But man, it's been a great show, guys. What you think?
Yeah. It was amazing. Definitely thought-provoking. Yeah.
I appreciate you guys for tuning into the show, man. It's been a very powerful show. So take everything in we were saying tonight. Remember, be black, be proud. Always remember, invest with your people, get money with your people, pray for your people. But remember, you're black, you're beautiful. No matter your race, anything, always remember, you are valued. And nobody's valued unless we value together, One man, one woman loves all. Let's grab each other by our hands, by our bootstraps, and let's just continue to just work together to love each other. But Keon Taylor, Chocolate Conversations Podcast, another episode in the books. Until next time.